Alright, here's where things start to spiral into truly uncharted territory. What began as online whispers and conspiracy threads has now exploded into full-on public spectacle. A woman, completely unknown to the world until just recently, has stepped out of the shadows. She goes only by the initials DL, and she's just dropped a claim so shocking, so disruptive, that it's shaking the very foundation of the royal narrative as we know it. DL is alleging something extraordinary. She says she is the actual biological and birth mother of both of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's children, Archie and Lilibet. Not a donor, not just a behind-the-scenes egg carrier, not someone who played a quiet medical role. No, according to her, she was the full-blown surrogate, the woman who physically carried and gave birth to both children. And now, years later, she's done staying silent. This isn't some anonymous, faceless Reddit post or shady leak with no backing. DL is coming forward with evidence. She's producing hospital documents, signed agreements, and even what appeared to be financial records showing that she was not only involved but was promised compensation and lifelong anonymity. She claims this all started in late 2018, when, according to her, a deal was brokered in secret that would ensure the royal couple could present their children as born naturally to Meghan, while DL stayed hidden in the background. I was promised privacy and compensation. Instead, I was erased from the narrative. And she's not saying this from behind some blurred-out interview screen with her voice distorted. She's gone public with her face, her voice, and a calm, composed presence. There's no panic, no signs of confusion, just a woman who looks like she's been preparing for this moment for years. And maybe she has, because the second she spoke, the internet lit up like wildfire. Millions of people suddenly remembered the strange rumors and viral videos that had once circulated about Meghan's pregnancies. Remember those bizarre clips of Meghan's baby bump appearing to shift or fold unnaturally when she sat down? Or how the size seemed to fluctuate dramatically over just a few days? At the time, mainstream outlets dismissed them as conspiracy theories cooked up by royal haters. But now, those videos are getting millions of new views overnight, with people asking if maybe, just maybe, there was more truth to those rumors than anyone was willing to admit. But this story goes far beyond weird baby bump clips. Because if DL's story checks out, then this isn't just about Meghan faking a pregnancy for PR or image control. This is about something much deeper. This is about the royal line of succession, about two children being presented to the public, the media, and even to Queen Elizabeth herself under what could be completely false pretenses. It's about the possibility that the palace, the press, and even Prince Harry himself were not only in on it, but actively helped orchestrate it. And that's where things get really uncomfortable. At first, some people gave Harry the benefit of the doubt. They figured maybe he didn't know the full extent of what was going on, that he was just caught up in Meghan's carefully controlled media machine. But now, with DL stepping forward, that excuse is falling apart. Because if Harry knew, if he participated in staging the pregnancies, if he signed off on the contracts and helped hush up the surrogate behind the scenes, then he's not an innocent bystander. He's a co-conspirator in rewriting the royal narrative. Let's not forget how odd things seemed even back when Archie was born. No media presence at the hospital. No traditional photo op on the steps like William and Kate did with all their kids. No smiling doctors, no confirmation of medical staff, not even the name of the hospital. Just Harry, standing in front of a horse stable, grinning and saying the baby had arrived. At the time, it felt quirky. Now, it feels calculated. Then there's the birth certificate controversy. When Archie's certificate was finally released, sharp-eyed observers noticed something odd. Meghan's full legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle, had been mysteriously removed and replaced with Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. The palace chalked it up to a clerical update. Meghan claimed it was done without her permission. But now, with these new claims in the air, people are re-examining that move and wondering, was it really about protocol? Or was it a deliberate legal maneuver to avoid having Meghan's name attached to a birth she didn't actually experience? Because if Meghan didn't give birth and her name was listed as the mother, that could open the door to serious legal implications. We're talking about the potential falsification of a government document. And to this day, neither Meghan nor Harry have issued a strong, public denial of DL's claims. No press conference, no legal rebuttal, no statement to shut the story down. Just a wall of silence, while behind the scenes, reports are swirling that their legal team is scrambling, issuing quiet threats to media outlets, trying to kill stories, and working overtime to keep this from going mainstream. And honestly, when someone offers to take a DNA test, when someone is bringing documents and detailed testimony, and your only move is to threaten lawsuits instead of just showing proof, that doesn't exactly scream innocence. It screams damage control. So now here we are. A woman says she was the secret surrogate. She says she has the documents, the bank receipts, the signed agreements, and maybe even medical files to back it up. She's not backing down. And on the other side, total silence. Meghan and Harry have disappeared from the conversation. But their silence? It's starting to get louder, because in today's world, saying nothing can often say everything. And the craziest part? Unraveling the claims made by the anonymous surrogate, known only as DL, is proving to be a turning point in the ongoing saga surrounding Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. According to her, she was recruited through a California-based agency and placed in complete isolation during both of her pregnancies. She describes a life devoid of friends, family, or even casual outside contact. The intention, as she claims, was to prevent any potential leaks or speculation that could jeopardize the tightly controlled narrative. DL insists that Meghan's team managed every aspect of the surrogacy, medical arrangements, housing logistics, psychological counseling, and more. But what they failed to secure, she says, was her lifelong silence. That silence began to crack after she suffered from postpartum preeclampsia, a severe and dangerous condition characterized by extremely high blood pressure and the risk of organ failure. In the aftermath, DL claims she received minimal medical follow-up, little emotional support, and was quickly discarded. In her own words, she told a journalist, "I wasn't a person to them, I was a vessel." That sense of dehumanization was what prompted her to begin documenting everything she could: text messages, appointment logs, medical invoices, receipts for every dollar, and detailed records of her involvement. If her claims hold water, this evidence could be nothing short of explosive. What was once dismissed as outlandish gossip is now being viewed through a completely different lens. Mainstream media outlets, not just tabloids, are beginning to circle the story, and legal teams at several major networks are reportedly analyzing the risks and responsibilities of covering it more aggressively. At the same time, amateur investigators on online forums are flooding timelines with footage, archival clips, and speculative timelines from Meghan's pregnancy era. One clip, in particular, has resurfaced with relentless scrutiny: a 2019 public appearance in which Meghan bends down and her baby bump appears to collapse inward. At the time, most brushed it off as a simple wardrobe malfunction, possibly a fold in the fabric. But now, under this new wave of suspicion, that clip is being rewatched frame by frame, becoming a centerpiece in a mounting collection of so-called inconsistencies. Meanwhile, sources within Prince Harry's inner circle are painting a picture of growing emotional instability. Some report he's been volatile, lashing out at aides, skipping obligations, and retreating from routines that once grounded him. Insiders claim he's struggling to sleep and plagued by paranoia not just about the media, but about who in his inner circle knew about the surrogate and when. One former palace staffer reportedly stated, "He's unraveling. He's caught in a lie he thought he could control." Others suggest Harry is now questioning whether Meghan's team had kept things from him, whether he ever had the full story to begin with. In stark contrast, Meghan has completely vanished from the public eye. No Instagram activity, no podcast releases, no product launches, no casual sightings. For someone who has long mastered the art of narrative control, her silence is becoming more and more conspicuous. Her PR team has yet to issue a single formal denial, and sources close to her brand say several high-profile business collaborations are now being quietly reassessed behind the scenes. The legal pressure is building as well. There are widespread rumors that Meghan and Harry's attorneys have issued cease and desist letters to media outlets considering interviews with DL, but surprisingly, DL doesn't seem deterred. In fact, she's reportedly welcoming legal action. She has offered to testify under oath and even undergo DNA testing, as long as it's conducted by a neutral third party. That level of confidence has observers asking, what exactly does she know that makes her so fearless? The implications stretch far beyond celebrity gossip. This story is now beginning to touch on constitutional matters. British legal scholars are reportedly reassessing the legal validity of Meghan and Harry's children within the royal line of succession. Because if a surrogate was used and that fact was hidden from the public in the palace, and if transparency is a requirement of royal succession protocols, then we're entering uncharted territory. This is something the monarchy has never had to confront before. Even Queen Elizabeth's former press secretary commented on the situation during a recent radio interview, saying that if true, it could raise serious questions about legitimacy and title rights. The monarchy, built on centuries of rigid tradition, may find itself in a historic bind. Surrogacy isn't illegal, nor is it something shameful. But hiding it, especially when royal titles and constitutional roles are involved, could be interpreted as a serious breach of public trust. The weight of that deception could have ripple effects for years to come. The public is already reacting. Online sentiment, once cautiously supportive, is taking a noticeable shift. Polls and social media engagement show that trust in Meghan and Harry has dropped to record lows. The narrative they built so carefully, centered around authenticity, victimhood, and independence, is now collapsing under the weight of new allegations. Behind closed doors, the couple is reportedly crumbling under the pressure. Meghan is said to be furious, not just with the surrogate for coming forward, but with Harry himself. She allegedly believes his indecision gave the scandal legs, allowing it to spread when it should have been contained. Harry, on the other hand, reportedly feels trapped, not just by the growing media firestorm, but by the fear that everything he's built post-royalty could come undone. Sources say the two are barely speaking, living in separate quarters of their Montecito mansion, and surrounded by a skeleton staff. The once idyllic retreat has turned into a hotbed of tension, secrecy, and whispered arguments. Meghan, sources say, is now solely focused on damage control, particularly when it comes to her lifestyle brand, which spans everything from skincare to gourmet wine. Some sponsors have already begun quietly backing away. One insider bluntly stated, "No one wants to be tied to a PR time bomb." On the legal side, it's chaos. Meghan and Harry's attorneys are working around the clock, not just threatening media outlets, but also attempting to block DL from appearing on American television. But despite their efforts, reports suggest at least 2 major networks have already recorded interviews with DL and are just waiting for the legal dust to settle. If those segments air, it could shift the entire narrative permanently. What's most unsettling to many observers is the complete lack of a solid denial. Meghan has faced controversy before, but she's never remained this silent. There's always been a response, a lawsuit, an official statement, a strategically timed interview, or at the very least, a defiant Instagram post. But this time, nothing. And in the court of public opinion, that silence is being interpreted not as grace or discretion, but as guilt. Even the royal institution, long believed to have distanced itself from the Sussexes, is reportedly watching developments closely. Because if the children were brought into the royal line under false pretenses, it's not just a reputational issue, it's a constitutional crisis. Can titles like Prince and Princess be granted if royal birth protocols weren't followed? Can a royal child born through secret surrogacy remain in the line of succession? These are questions that no one in the monarchy's legal department has ever had to seriously consider. Until now. Senior advisors are reportedly consulting with constitutional scholars and legal historians to quietly assess their options. While a public investigation remains unlikely, a private internal review is said to be underway. If it's determined that Harry and Meghan violated royal protocol, or worse, deliberately misled the crown, the consequences could be historic. Title removals, formal exile from royal associations, and a permanent severing of ties are all being whispered as potential outcomes. Just as striking is the shift in public loyalty. Celebrities who once supported Meghan and Harry are suddenly quiet. Podcast hosts are deleting past episodes that featured glowing praise. Fan accounts are being flooded with questions, demands for answers, and calls for accountability. The narrative of the fairy tale is fracturing, and no one seems to be coming to their defense. For a couple that built their brand on transparency and truth, this moment feels like a complete collapse. The damage isn't just superficial, it's existential. If the public believes they lied about something as fundamental as the birth of their children, what else might they have concealed? What began as fringe theories about a moon bump and an odd-looking birth certificate has now spiraled into what may become one of the most explosive scandals in the history of the modern monarchy. The story that was supposed to represent freedom and new beginnings now feels increasingly like an elaborate fiction, one unraveling in real time under the spotlight of global scrutiny.